Thank you so much for coming back. I am Jen Potter. I am the host of Networking Now, and I am joined by Michelle Drew, who is a naturopathic wellness consultant. It's a mouthful, but what she's doing is so important, and it's so important to total over full body wellness. And in the first segment, we talked a little bit about why she does what she does, how she ended up where she is. She was in a coma for 3 weeks, which drastically changed her life and changed her outward look of how she is going to do things differently in the future and help other people. So Michelle, thank you so much for coming back. Thankfully I've got to know you a little bit more than our audience has. So over the course of time, I've really gotten to learn what it is that she does. And some of the questions that I ask you, I do already know the answers to, but our audience doesn't. So it's really important to kind of really tell everybody what it is you do and how you do it, because before the break you were talking about things like that full body health, right? And flossing your teeth and how important it is. And for a quick second, I said this before on the break that I instantly think if you don't floss your teeth, like that could lead to not just gum disease, but heart issues, right? And all of those things are correlated, and not everybody thinks about that all of the time. And I think it's really cool that that's part of your process, because you're able to help people on a completely different level. And to get out there, because I know that this is something that it's not the first thing that pops to my mind when I think about getting healthy, or I think of, for me personally, it's what my degree's in, right? But I will naturally just think, oh, maybe a nutritionist, or maybe something else. And so I'm sure getting yourself out there is unique. How is it that we met through networking? But if you could tell us a little bit about how you get yourself out there, and we can dive in a little bit further to what that looks like.
Oh, absolutely. Networking for me is huge. It's how I do everything. And I'm not so much the kind of networker that you use me and I'll use you and it'll be great. I like the higher level strategic relationships and introductions, proper introductions to the right people in order to help someone else, and that will come full circle in time. And even for, I get out and I speak at Rotary clubs and, women's events like you put on. That wasn't really just for women, but it's about getting out and spreading the word. My mission is to teach, to inspire.
I like
And
that.
because teaching without inspiration is just, you learn something. Are you going to put it into action, or is it just going to stay stagnant in your memory?
I really like that. I think when you put things into action, you're more likely to remember them, right? Because you're not just standing still. And I really really like that. And so you were recently just part of the women's conference that we just held, and it was a primary focus on women and different parts of just women's journeys, which I think is so important. But you do work with a vast array of different clients. Do you have a target demographic? Who is it particularly that you love to work with?
Primarily, I say primarily women over 40. I've helped men as well. But my target, my avatar is women over 40. And
Women.
yeah, because if we start to have changes to our body and we don't really know what to do with that.
And I feel like that this is something that we've talked about, not just here, but I've talked about on other episodes with other people, when we start talking about um, this age where we come to this point of realization, and where we're working on ourselves and we're making ourselves a better person. And I feel like between me and you, between our ages, right? I feel like I turn 41 next week, and with my birthday coming up, there's this about a 15-year age gap. I'd say 5 years below and about 15 years ahead, where in this group of women who are just trying to find themselves. Some of them find it a little bit earlier, some of them find it a little bit later, but once we start to work on ourselves, what a difference it makes in our lives, right? Where we really start changing the focus of the things that we're thinking about, how we're making our decisions, how we're going to wake up and live our best lives. And that target demographic of women over 50, sometimes there's a lot of women who don't take care of themselves because they put themselves second, and they're, like yourself, you talked about, go, 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 go until something physically stopped you. Would you have stopped?
Mhm. Probably not,
Right.
to be
And
honest.
it,
Yeah.
right. And I think that's something that we have in common. So for me personally, people tell me all the time, they're like, you do too much. You need to slow down. I'm like, I'm perfectly content doing all the things I'm doing. I love going 100 miles an hour. I do know that if I don't slow down someday, I'm going to hit a physical or mental wall. I'm very well aware. And, I think surrounding myself by other powerful women who are saying, "Hey, you just need to slow down a little bit." I've taken that into account. I've slowly started to say, "You know what? That's absolutely right. Like I do need to kind of take some things off my plate." I've made other people more accountable because of that exact same thing. And, I think that that's so important that when we are able to focus a little bit more on ourselves, we start to make these bigger changes within our lives. And so
Mm.
when you're going out and doing things like networking and you have a very short period of time to tell your story or talk about what you're doing, how do you interact with people in that realm?
Yeah, I ask a lot of questions. Like when I have my bio slide up on the screen, I let them read it because that's all the pretty stuff. And I'm like, "Is it okay if I tell you the ugly backstory?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, they love hearing the ugly backstory, right? That's much more fun than the bullet point, kudos, whatever, entrepreneur, speaker, whatever." Um, and I get vulnerable with them early on. And I always my interactions are my speaking engagements are always interactive, and it keeps them engaged and having fun.
Yeah, I think being engaged is fun. Having that interaction is a lot of fun, and being able to tell that story a little bit more in depth,
Mhm.
and even in a shorter period of time. And so you do a lot of in-person networking. Do you do online networking as well? I know one of our groups is online.
Mhm.
What is something that you prefer?
I love the energy of being in person. However, I don't have to do a weekly in person early in the morning which is when most networking groups are. So I love Zoom for that because we get looking good from here up and have at it from. I still have my
Is
jammy pants on.
isn't that the best part? It's always like this game which I love to play with people, like, am I wearing pajama pants? Do I
Or
have a
not.
heated blanket on? If I was to stand up, what color are my pants? Like, nobody would know that I'm wearing red pants today, right?
Right.
But, it's always fun because you just never know, and it's always that sheer bit of curiosity of the game that we're playing with other people, which is
Ex
fun. But but
exactly.
it is, and it's like, I don't have to make myself look pretty. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could just put a screen, don't they have, like, Zoom has, like, makeup filters you can put on now? Um, it's yeah, yeah, it's fantastic. If you anyone
Wow.
hearing, if you learned anything that on Zoom, you can put a makeup filter on.
Wow.
You do lipstick and everything. Yeah, I know.
As
I know.
long as it's where
Technology
it's
is amazing.
supposed to be and not over here.
I know you like have it like off to the side, but it is pretty amazing, right? And I think it's pretty crazy that we have all of these different ways of networking, and we have all these different ways of being able to connect with other people. And I definitely think that there's something to be said for the in-person meetings. The energy is always amazing. Feeling people's energy when you're around them, I think, is important, especially topics like being. I think the coaching field, like I think being around people, part of what you do is getting to know other people's personalities. And I think that's how we connect with people, right? When you have that empathetic connection, when they know who you are, like, we can connect with someone via Zoom. That's absolutely a thing. But when you're there and that synergy and creating it, and you don't have to sell yourself. You're saying this is who you are, and your clients kind of gravitate towards you because they learn about who you are. And
Right.
I think that that's, really important when we're talking about how we're interacting, because as a wellness coach, how do you find your clients? So if you're networking, is it a direct connection networking? Is it more referrals? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the in-person is important because we're getting really personal. and we're going to talk about some stuff that they might not talk about with a lot of people. So I do love the in person for that. And I meet people wherever I go, and hopefully I exude the energy of authenticity, and people believe that I can help them. I mean, I go out to dinner and I meet people sitting next to me at the bar. That's where I sit because it's more social. And a lot of times they end up being my client. So, and at networking events, it's a combination of, the people that I meet at the event, or, oh my God, my wife needs to talk to you. She's been suffering with gut issues for years now. So it's a combination.
I love that.
Yeah.
And, it's always something different, and networking is so different. Like you even just said it, just sitting at a bar and sitting there, whether it's having a drink or having a soda, but like sitting at a bar,
Yeah.
you're almost forced to talk to the person that's sitting next to you. And I've always enjoyed that because I'm always the person that goes out, and I will always make a friend when I go out because I love talking to people. And, I say this all the time. I'm actually introverted. I'm an introvert extrovert where sometimes I don't like to talk to people, but I force myself into those situations because I know it forces me to be outside of my comfort zone, and it allows me to really interact with different people, which makes networking that much easier for me.
Mm,
So for a long time, I was super shy. I was always scared to be that person who would like walk in and, have to engage in somebody else. And now it's just like, second nature where you just kind of get used to it. So
yeah.
we're going to jump to another break. I am Jen Potter, host of Networking Now. I am here with Michelle Drew. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about networking and gut health.